The bell over the diner door jingled as the evening wind swept in a swirl of dust and the faint scent of rain. It was the kind of wind that carried stories, and tonight, it carried one that none of them would forget. Drays sat at table 6, boots dusted from the trail, hat tilted low, a plate of roast beef untouched before him. He'd been riding for days, chasing silence and trying to forget the woman who left without a goodbye. The town of Sagebrush Hollow wasn't on any map worth reading, but it had one thing he needed, a place to disappear. Across the room, a young woman stepped inside quietly, the bell above the door barely stirring. She wore a beige fringe jacket that had seen better days, turquoise beads around her neck catching the lamplight. Her little girl clung to her hand, eyes wide and curious, the kind of eyes that still believed in good things. "Just coffee," the woman murmured to the waitress, sliding into the corner booth, head lowered like she was hoping not to be seen. But in a town like this, secrets never stayed small for long. The child's stomach growled softly, a sound Drays wasn't meant to hear but did. He saw the girl staring at his plate, her little face framed by sunburnt curls. She wasn't begging, wasn't even asking. Just looking. The way hungry souls look when they've forgotten what a full belly feels like. He cleared his throat, pushing his plate toward the edge of his table. "You can have this," he said quietly, his voice rough like gravel and mercy mixed together. The woman's eyes lifted, startled. She had the kind of beauty time couldn't ruin, tired but proud, worn but still unbroken. "No, thank you," she said, clutching her child's hand tighter. "We're fine." But they weren't. Drays could see it plain as the scars on his own heart. The girl looked back at him again, eyes wide as the prairie sky. He smiled faintly and called the waitress over. "Bring her another plate." "Same as mine." "Put it on my tab." The woman looked like she wanted to argue, but her voice caught in her throat. Pride and hunger were fighting a quiet war inside her. In the end, hunger won. When the food came, the little girl smiled like sunshine breaking through storm clouds. She whispered, "Thank you, mister," before taking her first bite. Drays looked away, pretending not to see, but something inside him shifted, something he thought had died a long time ago. After a while, the diner emptied. The old jukebox played a soft country tune no one was listening to. Drays got up, dropped a few bills on the counter, and walked out into the cooling air. The moon hung low over the dusty road. He could hear her footsteps behind him a moment later. "Why'd you do that?" she asked, voice soft but edged with suspicion. He turned, thumb hooked on his belt. "Because your little girl looked hungry," he said simply. No reason beyond that. She looked at him for a long moment, eyes narrowing. "Men don't do things for no reason." "Maybe not," he said. "But maybe I ain't most men." The wind tugged at her fringed jacket, and she hesitated. "We're just passing through," she said finally. "Don't want trouble." "Neither do I." He nodded toward the hotel across the street. "Safe beds there, if you need M. Tell M. Drays sent you." She looked like she wanted to refuse again, but something in his tone, steady, honest, made her pause. "Thank you," she said quietly, almost a whisper. Drays tipped his hat and walked away, his boots echoing against the wooden boards. But even as he turned the corner, he couldn't shake the feeling that fate had just stepped back into his life wearing turquoise beads and holding a little girl's hand. That night, rain came. The kind of rain that cleaned the air but couldn't wash away the past. Drays lay awake listening, thinking about the woman and her child. He didn't even know their names, yet something about them stirred an old ache inside him. Maybe it was the way she'd looked at him, half wary, half grateful. Or maybe it was the child's smile, bright enough to light the darkest corner of a man's heart. The next morning, the sun rose over Sagebrush Hollow like a promise. Drays saddled his horse early, planning to leave before anyone woke. But when he passed the hotel porch, he saw her sitting there, the little girl asleep in her lap, a worn suitcase beside her. "You leavin', too?" he asked quietly. She nodded. "We were heading west. Don't know where yet." Drays looked out toward the horizon. "West'll test you," he said. "But it'll set you free too, if you've got the courage for it." She smiled faintly. "Courage is all I've got left." He tipped his hat. "That's enough." As he started to walk away, the little girl stirred. "Mister," she called sleepily. "Are you a cowboy?" He turned and smiled. Something like that, little one. The woman's eyes softened. Thank you again, she said, standing. For the food. For not asking questions. Sometimes not asking's the kindest thing you can do, Draze said. He mounted his horse and gave her one last look before riding off into the rising sun. But as he rode, the weight in his chest grew heavier. He didn't know it yet, but he'd just met the one person who could change everything, and the little girl who would remind him what it meant to have a heart. Because in Sagebrush Hollow, no one really leaves quietly. Every goodbye echoes, and some echoes follow you forever. The wind had changed by the next evening. Draze could feel it in the way his horse shifted restlessly beneath him, the way the crows circled low over the fields. Something was coming, something he couldn't yet name. He'd told himself he was riding west to outrun his ghosts, but deep down he knew better. Some ghosts wore turquoise beads. By dusk, he found himself turning back toward town. Sagebrush Hollow glowed faintly under lantern light when he arrived. The streets were quiet except for the rustle of tumbleweed and the distant bark of a dog. As he passed the diner, he saw her again, the woman from last night, standing outside with her little girl and a man he didn't recognize. The man had a fine coat and a mean look, the kind that didn't belong to small towns or soft hearts. Draze dismounted, watching silently from across the street. I told you, Eli, she was saying, voice low but fierce. We're not going back. You had your chance. The man grabbed her arm roughly. You think you can walk away from me, Clara? After everything I paid for? His voice was cold, slick as oil. The little girl clutched her mother's leg, terrified. Clara. Draze now had a name to the face that had haunted him since last night. He stepped forward, boots crunching on gravel. Let her go. Eli turned, surprise flashing to anger. Who the hell are you? Someone who doesn't like seeing a woman treated that way, Draze said, calm but sharp. His hand hovered near the revolver on his hip, not a threat, just a promise. Clara's eyes widened. Draze, don't. Eli sneered. This ain't your business, cowboy. Draze took another step closer. It is now. For a long moment, no one breathed. The wind whispered between them, carrying the tension like dry grass before a spark. Then Eli shoved Clara aside, his hand darting toward the pistol under his coat. But Draze had lived too long and seen too much to hesitate. One motion, clean, precise. His revolver barked once, the shot echoing through the empty street. Eli's gun fell first, clattering on the dirt. A second later, he did too, clutching his shoulder, not dead but defeated. Draze never aimed to kill if he didn't have to. He holstered his weapon and looked at Clara, who stood frozen, the turquoise beads trembling against her chest. You okay? He asked softly. She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. I didn't mean for you to get involved. You didn't have a choice, he said. Some things a man just can't walk past. The sheriff came running moments later, summoned by the shot. Draze gave his statement in a few quiet words, never mentioning how close it had come. Eli was taken away, cursing and bleeding but alive. The sheriff tipped his hat to Draze. Reckon you saved her life. When the dust settled, Clara sat on the diner steps, her daughter asleep against her shoulder again. Draze stood a few feet away, unsure what to say. The stars had come out, bright, cold, endless. You could have ridden on, she said softly. You didn't have to come back. He looked out at the horizon. I told myself I was done saving people. Turns out I was wrong. She smiled faintly, weary but grateful. You remind me of my father, she said. He used to say the world breaks everyone, but some folks still find the strength to be kind. Draze chuckled softly. Sounds like a wise man. He was, she said, eyes shining. He died protecting someone who didn't deserve it. Guess I never thought anyone else would do the same for me. He took a step closer, the boards creaking under his boots. You don't owe me anything, Clara. But if you're heading west, you shouldn't do it alone. The trail's rough, and folks out there can be meaner than Eli ever was. She looked up at him, searching his face. Why are you helping us, Draze? He took a long breath before answering. Because I once had a family. Lost to fire and greed. Watching you and that little girl reminded me what it felt like to matter. She stared at him for a long moment, then nodded. Then maybe we'll ride together. For a while. Morning found them saddled up and ready. The town still slept as they rode out, the first light brushing gold over the hills. The little girl sat in front of her mother, clutching a small stuffed horse Drays had given her from his saddlebag. She giggled as they crossed the ridge, the sound carrying through the quiet dawn. Hours passed before Clara finally spoke. You ever think about settling down again? Drays smiled at the horizon. Used to think I was too broken for that. But now, he glanced at her. Now I think maybe broken people just find other broken ones and build something strong out of what's left. She smiled softly. Maybe. They rode until the sun dipped low again, painting the sky in shades of fire. When they stopped by a creek to rest, the little girl fell asleep beside the horses, her head on Drays' saddle blanket. Clara watched her daughter for a long time before whispering, "Thank you for everything." Drays looked at her, eyes warm and steady. You don't have to thank me. You already did, the moment you trusted me. Silence settled between them, but it wasn't empty. It was peaceful, the kind of quiet that felt earned. Somewhere in that stillness, two souls that had been running found a place to rest. Later, as they made camp, the stars returned, same as the night they met. Clara sat beside the fire, turquoise beads glinting in the light. Drays strummed a few rough notes on an old guitar he carried, humming a tune that spoke of loss and finding one's way home. She smiled. You play pretty good for a man who claims he's done with the world. He laughed quietly. Maybe the world ain't done with me yet. The fire crackled between them, and for the first time in years, Drays felt something close to peace. The little girl murmured in her sleep, and Clara reached over, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Tomorrow, Drays said softly, we'll keep heading west. There's a valley near Red Mesa, quiet, green. You could start over there. Clara nodded. And you? He shrugged. Maybe I'll stick around. Help you build that new start. She looked at him, really looked, and smiled. I'd like that. As the flames burned low and the night deepened, Drays realized that sometimes the people you meet by accident are the ones fate meant for you all along. He'd given a plate of food to a hungry child, and in return, he'd found a reason to live again. The wind moved gently through the trees, carrying the sound of the child's laughter, the whisper of the fire, and the soft strumming of a cowboy's heart learning to beat again. And somewhere out there, the world kept turning, wide, wild, and full of second chances.